So what is this? What is the problem? Why can't they just get along in Washington? You know, the Democrats and the Republicans. I said because they see things differently. We're at this crossroads. Here, let's take your life. You make $2,000 a month, but you're spending $2,500 a month. You make $2,000 a month, but you're spending every month. You're spending another $500. You know, you borrowed money from your mom one month. You went and got a credit card another month, and you know now you got another credit card because you need this other $500 every single month, and you've been doing this year after year after year. So now none of your cousins are loaning you money. Nobody's giving you money anymore. So you got to go to the loan shark. You got to go to China and get some money, and that money is expensive. And now they want a little bit more of that money, and so the discussion in Washington is keep spending $2,500. Or stop. Find that $500. I said Republicans are saying find that $500 and stop spending it. Let's peel it back. There's something you're buying that you don't necessarily need to buy so that you can live within your means. The Democrats on their hand are saying, no, you can spend that $2,500. In fact, you can spend $2,800 if you want to because we're going to go into your neighbor's pocket and make them pay the difference. Force them through the heavy hand of law. She was like, I understand deficit. I understand that. At root of America's fiscal problems today is government dependency. And the rarely spoken truth underlying government dependency is that we are a nation in moral chaos. A culture locked in moral freefall. Far too many decent Americans don't even realize that we're in an aggressive war for the heart and soul of this country. That's why we have 40 days. Now, a lot of people think, well, we can't take California, and I thought we couldn't either, but and ever win it back. And it's going to be difficult to keep working at it, and we need to continue to work at it. After I lost the election, I said, I'm out of here. And it wasn't just me that lost the election. Remember, we lost everything here in California. It was like, whoa, I'm leaving. And Ed Meese pulled me to the carpet and said, you're not going anywhere. He said, this used to be a Republican state. We gave the world Ronald Reagan. He said, didn't I remind you San Francisco used to have a Republican mayor? I'm like, well, that's stretching it a bit there. But, you know, maybe we can at least keep Orange County red. Maybe we can get this area. There's no excuse for this to be blue. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
These folks will tell, I know it's just guilt. But I tell you something, guilt will land you in the poorhouse. Guilt will land this country in the poorhouse. And the rest of the world needs us. Because they're trying to sort through who they're going to be. You know, all that rioting and chaos going on over there. Someone told me the other day, they said, you know, I tell you one thing, they pretend they hate America, but if you went out there and said, I've got a green card, who wants to go? Boy, they'll knock you over, they'll kill everybody to get to you. Make sure that they're in this country of ours. I was just recently on a flight from North Carolina up to Ohio with some refugees that they're moving into our country from Nepal. And they, well, actually, they were from a place called Iran, which is no more. Communism just collapsed into where they're just no more. And there's 50,000 of them still, and so they're moving them through Nepal. They can't assume them there, so we're assuming them here in Ohio, actually. I don't know why Ohio, but whatever. I mean, they place them everywhere. But you know what the communists told them to keep them hating America? That capitalism is so cruel that we have no trees. And they came in at night into New York, and then they went down into North Carolina, and now it's morning. And I'm pointing, look. Trees, North Carolina, we're talking trees. We're talking where we get our furniture, okay? I mean, the finest furniture, they got a lot of trees. Oh, look, another one. Trees. He said, wow, and so he wanted to know more about America. I said, oh, no, it's free. Keep it that way. I said, you can be anything you want to. Well, I was a teacher over there. I said, well, you can be a teacher again. He said, but I don't speak much English. I'm like, half our country doesn't speak any English. Fine. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be anything. I said, you can be a bum. He said, what's a bum? I was like, never mind. That's the part he doesn't need to know. Now, we're in a war, and we don't even know it. Liberals often pretend that they don't like war, but they started 3 wars against our culture that are raging, and they've been raging since the 60s, and our nation is suffering today as a result. Number 1, they started a war on religion that weakened our public institutions and opened the door for a culture of corruption. When our lawmakers are at 13%, you know we have issues. These are people that make our law. You know, I remember when I came to Washington full time, it's kind of like you visit all the time and you're fascinated by things, but then when you move in, you see things that you didn't normally see. And I saw an interesting couple talking together. I mean, they weren't like a couple in relationship, but just male and female just laughing, having a good time. And you would recognize both of them. That's why I'm not going to mention one side of the aisle and one on the other. And so I asked my cousin, I'm that's interesting. Everyone in the world thinks that these people hate each other. He said that old saying, politics is like professional mud wrestling. The conflict is for the crowd, because at the end of the day, they're in the same business. Their children are raised together. And I'm thinking, different perspective. But when that Tea Party showed up, boy, did they draw a line in the sand. You know, better decide who you're going to be. Can't just hang out like that anymore. That's when our side got a little backbone and started saying no to things they should have been saying no to a long time ago. Now, they scrubbed this culture. That's why we have a culture of corruption. They scrubbed our schools from any and all references of God. In 1962, the Supreme Court struck down state-sponsored school prayer. In 1963, the court ruled that you can't read a Bible or recite the Lord's Prayer in public school. In 1980, the courts ruled that 10 Commandments had to come off the wall. In 1985, they struck down the Alabama law setting aside 1 minute of silence for meditation or voluntary prayer. Then liberals decide they're going to declare another war, a war on women. The reason that they're so quick with their responses, you know, it's sound like, where do they get their talking points? No, it's in them. Remember, this is the party of slavery. They use no terms that they haven't used for the last 300 years. This war on women they knew as well too. You know, the reason I say that is with the Joe Biden and his little comment, you know. It comes up naturally because they use these words all the time. He knew about chains. He's from the party of chains. Democrats are the party of slavery. Democrats are the party of Jim Crow. And Democrats are the party of modern day slavery, the welfare state. They like control. And they're the ones that declare a war on women. They weaken marriage. And they open the door to meaninglessness. And now look, homosexuality is dividing us and bringing hostility right into the public square because of them, because of this war on women and marriage. Abortion has deeply hurt us. It's unbelievable the scars. Time does not allow me to go into the details of how horrific this is against us as a people. And now we've taken 50 million out of our culture and sold this lie to women that children are an environmental hazard, so don't have too many. So while my grandmama had 9, my mama had 5, I had 2 and lost one of those. And this happened all over the country. And we really think we can keep our systems in line that are built on current workers, paying for current retirees? Right now, the current workers are like this and the retirees are here. Tomorrow, it turns right upside down. The demographics have shifted. In 1960, 75% of American adults were married compared to 50% today. And while 1 in 4 American women never married, 4 in 10 American births are out of marriage. In 1980, when Ronald Reagan was president, 18% of births were outside of marriage compared to 40% today. We're not the same nation, and we can't go on like this. 1.7 million in 2011 alone. Blacks went from 22% out of wedlock birth to 72% today. This is liberalism. You want to see where we're going as a country? Whites were 3% in the 60s, and they're just under 30% today. Hispanics, there was no data for them in the 60s because Hispanic is a made-up word. It's a political term to manipulate votes. So there was no data. It was just black and white. The only reason it was black and white at that point is because we had issues and a history of slavery. But anyway, they have data today, and Latino out-of-wedlock births in this country are at 53%. And in fact, the top 3 social crises confronting us as a nation are rooted in sexual matters: AIDS, abortion, and the entire welfare state. And then the third war that the liberals started was this war on poverty that just weakened the family and opened the door to a culture of entitlements. The same entitlement culture that we're talking about or trying to have a discussion about, that everybody knows is the elephant in the room, but nobody wants to say it out loud. And when somebody does, they get shocked. Are you really saying that some people think that? But yeah, they do. In fact, a whole lot of people think that a whole lot is due them. And I'm telling you, the Great Society has great cost. In just 50 years, blacks went from 70% of children being raised in married households by married parents to 70% of black children today are being raised in single-parent households. And liberalism is an equal opportunity destroyer. This reality, these social pathologies that we see destroying every urban and rural community across this country is awaiting the rest of America as we keep deteriorating the way that we are, morally and economically. Mountains of data point to the connection between religion and traditional marriage to civil order, protection of private property, and economic prosperity. So if we really want to build a nation of free people, we've got to begin to build, again, a nation of responsible people. You know, I don't see anywhere in the Declaration of Independence that politicians have a right to force us to pay for our neighbors' lifestyle, their housing, their food, their child care, their habits, not their sex life either. You know, it's interesting, even with this whole housing bubble collapse, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are welfare programs. And people need to start saying that out loud. If you want to buy a house, you need to save some money. You know, the steps out of poverty are not that difficult. If you make the right choices in your life, you work, you get some education, you save and invest, and you give back, you actually can break out of poverty in one generation in this great country of ours. But this is not the message that they're hearing anymore. They're hearing that their life is somebody else's responsibility. And now we've got the government everywhere taking advantage of this situation. And this battle against Obamacare and the HHS mandates for these sex subsidies, oh, this is one that has to be fought. Then we have to fight this one. Because there are boundaries that are set in our Constitution which politicians can't cross. These boundaries were set in our nation's boundaries so that our country could be free. Is it already? Oh dear. Well, I'm going to finish up then because no, I've got to get out of here and I'm going to run out of time. I just got so much that I want to talk to you guys about. I'm telling you, and I only get you for 5 minutes because I got to then move on. And but I'll tell you, the question that we need to be asking ourselves about our political affairs is not how to elect Republicans. What we need to be asking ourselves is what is wrong with our country. And what's wrong with our country is we are not building according to the blueprints. And what we need to do is start building according to those blueprints again. So that means we need to look for elected officials who understand these things deeply. Our nation was designed to be a free nation under God, and we've lost our way. And every part of our country that's untouched by government is working just fine. This little iPad right here, you know, they're trying to get them. The internet's doing just fine, as long as they can't get that tax on there yet. They're trying to figure it out, though. That's how people said, oh, well, you know, Al Gore said he created the internet. Now Barack Obama's running around saying, well, government had something to do with the internet. No, God created the internet. Because he wanted us to be free. He wanted us to be able to get information out there as quickly as possible without the heavy hand of government. Our problem is that where we let government take over our lives. And the federal government now takes 25% of the American economy. And out-of-control debt, enslavement to government, and broken families is no formula for a great country. But the good news is we can change. And we have opportunity to change. And we've got to get our message to these hard-hit communities, which is a whole other story that I don't have time to talk about. But I do have my cards up here for people that want to help my organization. Please come and get information. Well, you just have a card and you have to get information from Sheila how to help me. Because I didn't bring information because I only travel with one suitcase. And somebody asked earlier, so where do you live now? I'm like, well, right now I'm living in the back of Arlene and Dick's car because I have my suitcase in there and I'm coming to go live in United Airlines after getting off AirTran. Don't ever ride an AirTran. That one was not nice. I was so hungry when I got here. They didn't even, I sat in the first class and they gave us just a bag of chips on a 4.5-hour flight. Now, that's interesting. But we have issues that we do really need to push these ideas into these harder hit communities. This election shouldn't be close, but this election is close because the demographics in this country have shifted. And we have not, as Republicans, done the work, the hard work, to get our message into the communities that it matters to most. When Reagan was elected, 88% of the electorate was white. In 2008, 74%. This is what these folks know. That's why they're laughing. You know, someone mentioned earlier about, you know, the mockery of where they put their business or what they name it nice. Well, the welfare office is on Independence Avenue. They've been mocking us for a long time. And it's about time we start realizing that we're in a war for the heart and soul of this country and we have to win it. And without blacks and Hispanics understanding Americanism, it's going to be harder and harder for us to elect conservatives. And without blacks and Hispanics, it will get hard for even those that we get elected to do the work that needs to be done. You know, it'll be a miracle to pull this one out and to get the Senate. But I'm telling you, they have to have a mandate even if we do. Remember when Bush won in 2004? We thought he had a mandate. The first thing he did was say, we've got to reform Social Security. And that didn't last 1 month. You have to buy in from the people that it mattered to most. ARP is very strong in Washington, D.C. And that union headquarters for the AFI-CIO, CIO, that also own the media. Very few understand that they also own the media. SAG and AFTRA is under them. And their office, their front door looks at the West Wing of the White House. That's where they are in Washington, D.C. for people that don't know Washington. Right there. They walk out their front door and they see everything that's happening at that White House. And you believe that those mobsters are right there inside of that White House too. But the good news is that these reforms that we're talking about, especially as we reduce the size and scope of government, are good for these They need what we're talking about. They need to build wealth by funding private accounts. They need high-quality, low-cost care and health care. So they need an opportunity to have insurance that they can go out and get. But right now, they only hear from liberals, and we have to start making the investments that it takes to get our message out. That's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing right now. I'm doing everything I can to get it out before the election, and we'll continue doing it even after the election. It's not going to be easy, but we're already seeing signs that progress is being made. You know, in 2010, the census showed us that blacks, for instance, I mean, they might not vote with us, but they're walking with us because they left these blue states in droves, according to the census. When the red states, 17% drop in New York, 25% in Detroit, 17% in Chicago, and then black polling. In 2008, 96% of blacks voted for Obama. By February this year, he was down to 79%. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the election, but I do know what happened in 2004 when marriage was on the ballot in Ohio, and all eyes were on Ohio. And people want to know what's going to happen in Ohio, how those African Americans are going to vote. And we got 3% bump, and we took Ohio. Now, I'm not saying that they're the only reason that we won, but without that extra 3%, we would not have won. And what's happening right now in Virginia, I'm heading to Virginia. I have to spend a lot of time in Virginia because we need that Senate seat. In Virginia, 19% of the vote is black. 19%. And we don't care. We'll just try to win with that. There are not enough white males in the country anymore to just do it without them. We've got to start doing the work, and we need to start doing it right now. We need to start doing it right now, just telling our story, why we believe what we do. Otherwise, we could lose this country. For Texas, they have to be fighting over the two new congressional seats that they got because California's messed up. They got 2 seats. All of our folks went there that wanted to make money and want to keep the little bit that they already had. They moved to Texas. So Texas ended up with 2 new congressional seats. And the Latinos have them in court because they believe that those seats belong to them. We've got to start pushing the ideas of Americanism down into the communities that have the most to lose. You know, but blacks, for the first time, we're seeing them trend away. In 50 years, they haven't trended like this from these big government promises. Record numbers now are fighting against abortion and for school choice and for traditional marriage. We got to really start thinking about our children, our grandchildren. I got a lot at stake. My little grandson, you know, he's going to be just fine because he's a fighter. He's a quick young man. But now I got a little granddaughter. She's precious. Miss Naomi. Well, I'm getting her a Neiman Marcus card before I leave town. Oh, yeah, she deserves it. But I tell you, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about her future. I'm excited about the future of this country. And people wonder how. Well, one of the reasons is because God is still on the throne. And he's still born in them again every day. You know, it's kind of like the work of Harriet Tubman. While we were as a country trying to figure out what we were going to do about slavery, she was slipping them out one by one. And that's what we need to do, slip them out one by one. And that's what we were encouraged up here to see how many new members are coming in. It's like, come on, let's get more and more. Let's get our message out to these liberals because they can't really believe that. They're just a bunch of lazy conservatives. They're just afraid to talk out loud. It's like my daughter and husband. They're actors up here in Los Angeles. And most actors live very conservative lives. It's just that little bit at the top that just run their mouths, whose residencies aren't even in this state as they push all that environmental crap out to us. You know, their residencies in Wyoming, where they have 30-day residency laws and no state tax. Hypocrites. No, we can be encouraged. It's time to just be steadfast and immovable. We only had a few days, and we can work hard in these few days. If I can jump on every plane in and out of every airport for the next 40 days, for the sake of my grandchildren, for the sake of this country, then surely you can get and volunteer down in Seal Beach. Surely you can do a little bit to help people understand what's at stake in this election. Because in this country of ours, we still have opportunity to change course. Because in America, we still hire our leadership. In America, we battle in the voting booth. And we have a constitutional right to representative government. And we, the people, get to decide who those representatives are going to be. So I want to encourage you, let's decide this November. Thank you.